What's good, peoples? This is Big Said. Once again, the industry cosign back at it. I got a very good friend. And, it's kind of rare in this industry that you can call people friends because, more acquaintances, associates, or, whatever it might be. But I've known this young man, well, when he was young, well, I was young at one time too, but I've known him for practically 30 years. Marquann Smith. Um,
Oh
I,
man,
I,
just put me
it's so
out.
funny because, huh?
You just put me out there like that.
No, but it's funny because I'm trying to figure like it's kind of hard talking to someone when you've known them for so long.
Yeah,
But like I know everything about you, but it's still it's like bringing it to the public and trying to conduct an interview. It's kind of crazy because it's like we have regular conversations. But anyway, um, actor, producer, executive producer, writer. I mean, this man wears so many hats. I'm definitely proud of him because when I first met him, he was definitely one of the youngins trying to get in the game. And I always tell people that in this industry where people are so cutthroat and so everybody's trying to get at one another, like I try to encourage people. And I remember when Mr. Smith was definitely wet behind the ears and doing things and coming to me for advice or having conversations and seeing what he's doing now, definitely proud and definitely like whenever I can, acknowledging him. I featured him on Black Enterprise almost like 3 years ago when he first started the Godfather of Harlem. But we're gonna get into. I'm gonna allow him to introduce himself, and to give a little background, and then that way we can start from there, and then we'll find out exactly what's going on with this young man, with this old man who used to be young. What's good, sir?
hey man, Frederick Douglass. You some
What? I look like my shirt. No.
uh, but it is Black History Month. I'm gonna get you some walkthroughs. Like you know how they have the fake Drake. We got the fake Frederick Douglass. We looking at. So get you some money, man. Nah, I mean I appreciate it, brother. Um, as you said, it's really hard to find genuine friends in this fickle industry that we you know we make a living in, providing for yourself, providing for your family. And I could remember back in the days always asking you and you taking time out of whatever you're doing to just accommodate me and have conversations. I mean, we go way back, like, man, since the uh MC Light video, that's how far we go back. But no, in all reality, I'm just a kid, man, that decided never to give up in his dreams. I didn't have a plan B. I've always had a plan A. I just figured if you have a plan A, you don't need a plan B because plan B means you don't believe in your plan A. And I just stuck to it, looking back, growing up in the music industry with my older brother, Father MC, when he got his first deal at Uptown Records with Andre Harrell, watching how he transformed, from working at Kentucky Fried Chicken, calling him the Chicken Man, you know, every lunch break he's coming out with flour, then going back in writing rhymes, and us taking the train to the new music seminar, trying to figure out how we're gonna get the Jack the Rapper to his first video on a video music box, with Ralph McDaniels. I had a great example in my life just watching his tenacity. And me myself, I was always into the arts. I grew up in Harlem, then I moved out to Far Rockaway, Queens. And if anybody knows about Far Rockaway, Queens, that's the last stop on the A. And they don't even consider themselves part of New York City. It's like they call it the sixth borough. It's a little inlet, but on that little inlet, it's so dangerous. There's so many housing projects. It's so much tension. It's like a powder keg ready to bust at any day. And I was caught up in the middle of that powder keg, running the streets in and out of juvenile homes. The only thing that really kept me grounded to just drown out all the white noise outside was just watching movies. So I used to sit in my room and just watch Rebel Without a Cause. Once Upon a Time in America was one of my favorite movies. My character was Noodles, right? And Sergio Leone was the individual who brought this to light. And then James Dean, I love his character, and on the waterfront, Marlon Brando. So all of these Humphrey Bogart, all these movies are just kind of like embedded in me, and it was a great way to play make believe and not have to go deal with reality outside. So that's what really got me into television and film.
What's amazing is that what I noticed is that every actor you named were literally from years ago, as opposed to, because when people talk about their influences and things of that nature, it's usually a 10-15 year window depending on what era. But you named like the greats from the 30s, 40s, and like the James Deans, Marlon Brando. And I find that funny only because you just don't anticipate that from a young black man who grew up in Harlem and Far Rockaway to be talking about those great actors. You would expect like maybe a Lawrence Fishburne or anybody within that realm, but to even take it back that far is definitely amazing, because I know that the art of acting, the art of drama, things of that nature goes far beyond what we probably experienced coming up. So I appreciate that going way back, so to speak, when you mention those artists.
I mean, everybody can say, yeah, I watched Scarface and New Jack City and Boys in the Hood, but those weren't the things that really, that didn't inspire me. I wanted to see what it was living back in the 30s and the 40s and the 20s, and you know, watching great performers such as Sidney Poitier, Harry Belafonte, Lena Horne, my ultimate crush from Claudine, God bless the dead, so Diane Carroll. So these were like characters that I just grew up and wanted to just be able to tell stories and kind of like envision what it was to be back then, to be in a Maltese Falcon or to be in Casablanca with Humphrey Bogart and he's telling Sam to play it again. So I also used to love to read, and I remember I was in a juvenile home called Lincoln Hall, and in Lincoln Hall, I used to read this book called Man Child in the Promised Land. It was one of my favorite books by Claude Brown, and the book was about a coming of age story of a young man growing up in Harlem, the time of the riots, and him getting addicted to heroin and him changing his life and becoming a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. So things like that just show that your environment doesn't decide who you are. You know, you can be anything in life if you put your mind to it.
That's true. Now I know that the latest season for the series that you work on, that you actually presented and got greenlit, Godfather of Harlem. I know it just started. I don't have Epic, so I can't see it until it goes to Hulu. But
Hold
I
on,
know.
I saw it right there. We are
Huh?
on we are on Hulu right now, season one and season two, and it's no longer Epic. It's called MGM Plus because
That's right. That's right. Yes.
Amazon acquired MGM and MGM owns Epic. So now we're on the Amazon Prime app as well. So there's no longer Epic. It's called MGM Plus. It's their premium streaming. So you'll be able to go see it.
Wait, I have Amazon Prime. I didn't know that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, like, well, when this finishes, I'm definitely gonna check it out because yeah, I didn't know that. Wow. I feel like a fool right now. But anyway, let's okay, first I want to for the few people that may not know, explain to them your role in bringing Godfather of Harlem to fruition. To fruition. Sorry.
Man, you're a writer, brother. Come on,
I
man.
know, I know, I know. No excuses.
So it took me almost 20 years to get this project done. And I used to go up to Lenox Terrace. And if you know Lenox Terrace was a very pristine place to live. Like,
I used to live there.
politicians lived there, actors lived there, set lived there. You know what I'm saying? you know, Percy Sutton, all these wonderful individuals lived there. And I used to go up every Sunday and talk to this young lady by the name of Margaret Johnson, who happened to be my godmother. And Margaret used to tell me these magical stories of Harlem, how she used to walk out of a tenement building and smell fresh laundry hanging out of a window, walk past 125th Street, look up, see James Brown's name on the marquee, walk past Sugar Ray Robinson's barbershop, see the pink Cadillac outside, peep her head inside. She may see Nat King Cole waiting to get a haircut, hear Sam Cooke's voice getting coming out of a transistor radio, or even see Jackie Wilson getting a haircut. So all these stories I used to be fascinated with, and she would tell me this every Sunday. But she also told me about how African Americans migrated from the South, whether you came from North Carolina, South Carolina, going to Virginia, to New York, to D.C. Everybody was trying to escape Bull Connor's water hose, his dogs, and trying to find a better life. And but it was still tumultuous up east, up north. A black person going in Harlem to a hat store to purchase something as simple as a hat, the store owner may say, "You need to put the shower cap on your head before you purchase this hat." Or a black man who has a family that he just wants to take out for a steak dinner, he tries to go sit down and they saying, you know what, we only can serve this for you to go, while the rest of the patrons are inside the restaurant eating. But she also used to tell me about her grandfather, whose name was Ellsworth Raymond Johnson. The streets known him as Bumpy Johnson. He was from Charleston, South Carolina. He was a Geechee. He came up to New York not to become a gangster. He actually came to become an attorney like Malcolm X. So when he went to City College to apply for financial aid, and the bursar found out Ellsworth Raymond Johnson was a black man, they said, we don't give financial aid out to color folks. So he just took the cards that was dealt and he played the hand that he had the best way that he could. You know, he was the first African American underboss that sat down with Bugsy Siegel, Frank Costello, Lucky Luciano, Maya Lancey, Vito Genovese, the roots of the La Cosa Nostra or the Mafia. And they didn't look at him as a nigger. They looked at him as a smart black man that used as a conduit to bring drugs into Central Harlem, West Harlem. So, there's rumors that he beat Bobby Fischer in chess. He's a self-published poet. He read Shakespeare. He read Nietzsche. So he wasn't a savage. He just took the cards that he was dealt and played it the best way that he could. And I made her a promise over 20 years ago that I would go out there and get the real true story of who her father was.
That's a good look. That's a good look. Now I know when it comes to like the whole creative process and things of that nature, there's many different levels. I know there's different steps and things of that nature. Um how were you able to I know your background, you worked at BET, you worked within the industry, and I know you've had contacts for years. As far as getting somebody with the name of what's that guy that plays on Bumpy Johnson on the show? Forest. Now let me stop. How are you able to get Forest Whitaker to become involved in the series?
Well, I mean, first of all, Forrest never committed to play Bumpy Johnson. He committed to produce it with me, right? Um, and it started off. I have to give props to Bernard Alexander. Bernard, who was like my uncle. I was sitting down in the house one day. I just got fired from BET. I got let go after being there for 16 years. They gave me $4,000 in severance. So I was trying to figure out, what do I do next? I mean, I don't want to go back to the streets. This is all I know. I'm a creator. I love to create. This is what keeps me alive. And he introduced me to my partner, Jim Atchison. So Jim, I never met Jim a day in my life, but we had a great conversation over the phone. Him and a friend of his, Jay Cohen, who works at the Gersh Agency. And I told Jim, I said, yo, I have this project that I've been pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing about a gangster named Bumpy Johnson. I said, do you know who Bumpy is? Jim was like, yeah, 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 yeah. I'm a white boy from Boston, but I know who Bumpy is. Turned out he really didn't know who Bumpy was. But he flew out here on Christmas of 2014. 15, and I brought him to meet Margaret. Brought him up to Lenox Terrace in Margaret's house, him, his wife, and his son. Margaret looked at me and was like, Marquand, why are you bringing all these white folks in my house? You bringing the feds in here? She was that type of person. And she sat down, fell in love with them, and she said, Marquand, I'm giving you my blessings. I want you to go out there and get my story done. And they seem like they're really good people. So fast forward, I had to get scripts from different agencies because we were looking for a writer. So a lot of people were presenting spec scripts everywhere from CAA to WME to UTA to Gersh. All the big boys in town were just giving me scripts. And it wasn't just connecting with me. So one day I was up real late looking through IMDb at my favorite gangster movies, and I looked up Hoodlum, and it said Chris Brancato and Paul Eckstein. I called Jim. I said, Jim, do you know Chris Brancato or Paul? He said, Chris, the writer? I said, yeah. He was like, yeah, he lives across the street from me. He comes over my house every Sunday for an Italian meal. Joanne cooks for him. So I
Wow.
said, well, they know the lay of the land since they did Hoodlum. Maybe he'd be interested. And Chris just came off of creating one of the biggest shows on on Netflix called Narcos.
Yeah.
He was the creator of it. So Jim asked him, and Chris couldn't commit at the time. So Jim called me one night and said, how would I feel about Forest Whitaker playing Bumpy Johnson? And I hung up the phone to him. Because where I come from, everybody, has a Brooklyn Bridge, or I got the
Yep.
Borough Bridge feel, right? Turns out uh, Jim's wife, who's my sister, Joanne Colano, manages Forest. So we were able to get Forrest to take a look. Forrest loved the idea, but he just wanted to make sure that the writer, whoever wrote it, did a great job on the script before he committed. And as any actors, such as myself, such as Forrest, John Carlo Esposito, I can go on. You want to make sure that the script jumps out of the pages so you can make the right choices as an actor. You want to know who the character is. So Chris finally committed after meeting Paul, his partner, about 7 months later. He was like, okay, let's do this. But the way we want to do it is Bumpy coming home from Alcatraz. We saw the Harlem Renaissance with Hoodlum, right? But we didn't see
Yeah.
1960s when he comes home and everything that was happening in America at that time. So the pitch line was this: it's the collision of civil rights and the underworld. Why people like Tony Soprano? Because you've never saw the relationship with a mobster and his therapist. Why people like Walter White? It's a chemistry teacher who has a deadly disease that has to turn to selling methamphetamines to pay for his health insurance. So Jason Bateman, right? He's a financial advisor that's working with the cartel, right? So these are all intriguing characters. So we were like, you never saw the relationship with a underworld mob boss and a civil rights leader.
That's definitely something you wouldn't expect, um, especially being the names that were involved. I remember when I saw that movie, Hoodlum, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, and that's when I found out about Bumpy Johnson. So I know that when you and I had conversations about it, it was definitely intriguing because, like, I think people just knew of him by name and not necessarily his story.
I think Margaret wasn't a big fan of Hoodlum because she didn't like the way that Bub Hewlett was portrayed in there, and she thought it was just watered down. So that's why she was so adamant about getting a story that really showcased who her father was. He was more than just hanging out of Oldsmobiles with Tommy guns,
Yeah.
or looking for Dutch Schultz. He was more deep. So that's why we were able to tell the story that you haven't seen before on the screen. Not You haven't seen it in the Cotton Club, you haven't seen it in Hoodlum, you haven't seen it in Escape from Alcatraz. A lot of people have used Bumpy's name, in different, like, what is it, Uptown Saturday Night. All these characters are supposed to kind of resemble Bumpy Johnson, but we tried to get it as accurate as possible with the Godfather of Harlem.
Well, I mean, I definitely appreciate it. Like now that I know that I have access to it, I'm going to definitely check it out. Now, I want to speak more so along the lines of, you and what you're doing, whether it's something you're possibly doing now or in the near future, or anything that you would like to do going forward.
Oh man, I tell people you never look at it like you made it. I've been I've been blessed to have 3 seasons. God willing, we have a fourth season. I'm hearing that the numbers are doing really well. Um, I'm working on a project with Joe Morton and Matt Conahan. If you know Joe Morton, he was in a movie, A Brother from Another Planet. He played Papa Pope on Scandal, and Matt, he created the TV series House of Lies with Don Cheadle. So I'm excited to do a project with them, as well as 1-9. He's my partner on this project as well. 1-9 just did the Nipsey Hussle documentary with Spring Hill, LeBron James Company. It's called Hustle. It's something that you guys need to look out for. And I'm also doing another project. It's a police procedural based on a real life friend of mine. His name is Corey Pegues. Corey Pegues used to sell drugs for the Supreme Team back in the 80s, the late 80s and 90s, and he decided to change his life and went away to the Army and came home and became the highest ranked police officer in New York City, right under deputy inspector, or he might have been a deputy inspector. And when he wrote a book, he was on the Combat Jack podcast, and then wrote a book called Once a Cop, basically letting young people know that I made it and you can make it too. But this was my journey. But in his journey, he detailed what he used to do on the street. So when Raymond Kelly, the police commissioner, and the rest of the brass found out that, oh shit, we hired a guy that was selling drugs, and how does he keep passing these tests? I mean, he's writing police reform bills. He has a double master. They tried to take away his pension, his stripes, his badge, and I think it's such an intriguing story that people need to know. And he also has a documentary out called Cops and Robbers that's on Hulu right now as well.
That's so funny. When you said that, I was gonna say to you, I didn't want to interrupt, but I don't know what it is, divine intervention. I literally watched that last night. So when you
Wow.
mentioned his name, I'm like, I'm bugging right now. And just hearing so with Bimmy and all these other people that, so it's just so crazy hearing you say that when I literally just watched the document last night on Hulu.
It's an
So
amazing
I know
story.
that's a great one too.
Uh, Aligned with Ed Bonero. Ed Bonero created Criminal Minds and Third Watch, and we're presently talking with George Tillman and Bob Title. They did the Hate You Give and Mudbound, and they're doing a new Bob Marley feature with Paramount. So I'm looking forward to taking that out to the marketplace uh, to work and do some things.
That's good. Um, let me go back a couple of years. You know, when you were, let's say you were still at BET. Now, based on how social media is today, how do you think life as an executive during that time, let's go back 20 years. How do you think that we would have functioned with social media in the way that social media is being used today?
Well, I think 20 years ago we did have social media. It would have exposed a lot of frauds. It would have exposed a lot of people in the industry that quote unquote said they were hip hop. And I don't
Yeah.
I do not mind, like, I'm a straight shooter. Said I was working at BET with guys that went to Brown University and all these Ivy League colleges, and they said they were hip hop. When I actually lived it, I smelt it, I dreamt it. You know, I could tell you Mr. Magic to Brucey B. I was a young kid that was engulfed in this, and looking back then 20 years ago, I'm like, who makes you guys the decision makers of what truly hip hop is, without having someone that actually was there in the midst of hip hop, knowing what hip hop was. So I think if social media was back then, a lot of frauds. It would have been a lot of what they call it, the naked kings running around. With the king with no clothes on, like, for real.
And it's funny you say that because on a recent podcast I did, one of the guys, he grew up in the Bronx, and we were talking about, because I grew up near Bronx River.
Yep.
Like, I actually hung out with like people who like Lord Tariq, and I went to school with Slick Rick and Dana Dane and MC Search and all of these people. So it is kind of funny that you state that a lot of people, even today, that, like you said, quote unquote, or hip hop, don't even understand what hip hop actually is when we actually lived it. I mean, even like hanging out with you and your brother, when your brother father MC, before he became the father MC that the world knew about, and with Prince Marky D and all these other people,
Yep.
and people not realizing that, like, we lived exactly what people imagined, as opposed to people thinking of what hip hop is or was. So it is kind of crazy that and a lot of these executives these days do fake the funk, and I can't blame the younger ones, because of course they're younger and it's a different time. But I just find it strange that a lot of these executives or people within the industry that are claiming hip hop don't even have people who are involved in hip hop. At least you and I, we're cool with some people that can probably come to us to ask us questions, to
Yep.
authenticate things. But
Yep.
these people, like, and they're decision makers that's making things look.
I would love if I can go back in time, take one of these Ivy League executives out the Jew man's to buy a North Face with a gun on him. I hope you don't get stuck up for that North Face and the stick up kid bring that back to Jew man. Or be in the middle of Bentleys or Red Parrot or Union Square with razors in your mouth. I mean, that that's the culture. That's what it was. But now you're up when you're on the 35th floor with your big leather cushions and your windows overlooking the city. You feel like you have control and be the puppet master on what the culture is, and that's not what it is. It was never like that. Have you ever been to park jams? Have you snuck in a places that you were only 14 and you were getting in partying with guys that were 18, 19, 20 years old, And that's the crazy thing about, this industry. Everybody says they know something or they did something, and the ones that know, they know.
Yeah, it definitely do. I want to ask you, as far as like the where do you think hip hop is going based on what's been taking place over the past several years, and what you're used to from your background in hip hop? What direction in
And
anything you think hip hop is going?
this, I was asked a question similar to that. Before, to me, hip hop music was cool. It wasn't any egos. Now it's really turning art is turning into art is imitating life. As you see what's happening on TV when you turn on CNN, you turn on all these news channels. This person is locked up. This person has a RICO charge. This kid got his head blown off. And rappers keep saying it's a dangerous profession, but it's what we put out there. Why does rap have to be a danger? I don't see Kirk Franklin beefing with TD Jakes or Yolanda Adams and Shirley Caesar having any problems. You know what I'm saying? When we put that stuff out there and we start trying to live what we're putting on paper, it gets crazy. 50 knew how to remove himself from what he was talking. Look what he's doing. He's doing amazing stuff on TV. And it's getting real scary out here because when you have a platform to a big platform like hip hop, and this is what you're rapping about, and this is what you're talking about, you're under a microscope. You're under the gun. Like I can remember growing up back then, man. It wasn't Slick Rick and Dana Dane having beef or anything like that. It was internal conflicts, but it wasn't as worldwide as it is right now. Everybody's a YouTube detective now. Everybody's solving cases. Like it's crazy to me. Every time somebody from the comfort of your home on your keyboard, y'all solving cases. I've never seen like it's just real goofy and strange out here right now, man.
It definitely is. Um, the crazy thing for me when it comes to um, I guess just modern technology, and the fact that when we were coming up, if I was recording a song, it may take a couple of months for the song to actually get on the radio. Nowadays, with just a computer or even just a phone, you can actually make a song and have it played on one of the DPSs literally within 24 hours.
Yep.
If you know somebody at a radio station, you can get it played right away. Do you think that the access to actually doing things that wasn't as accessible before, does that make the music better, worse, or the same?
I think it makes it worse, man, to be honest with you, because if I think about back in the days, man, the quality control of music, even with Motown and Berry Gordy, you just couldn't put out a song. It had to be, it was a voting system, right? They had a board of people that had to vote and say this was good. And I think as technology moved on and on, I can just get on the phone and go boopity boopity boop 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 and just put it out there and oh it's a hit. It's just weird to me, man. The art of storytelling, the art of music, it's I wish I could just go back into the '90s, man. Like sometimes, And it's not to say that there are not any good music out right now that I like, but it's just like the quality control. Even with the A&Rs now. Back in the days, A&Rs really A&R projects. They really looked for talent. They were really visionaries, right? Now it's about how many likes you have on Instagram or Facebook, or
Analytics.
how many Snapchats. Are they doing a dance that everybody catches on? That's not talent to me. Those aren't real radio guys. The radio guys of the LA Reeds or those days are done. Those
Yeah.
days are gone. You know, somebody went and found Nelly, right? Nelly didn't have Facebook likes or anything like that. It was a song that was moving, but that and you lose out on so much good talent like that. So much good like that.
I also think that artists nowadays aren't as appreciative because it was so easy. They didn't have to go through any real struggles. And I had a conversation with someone like just last week, and they were stating how like the struggles on getting music put out. And I'm like, it's a different type of struggle, and it's not really a struggle. The thing is the field is so crowded now because everyone has access. Now, back when we were coming up, like you had to actually spend your money. You had to be outside. You had to do the necessary things because you had to be hungry for it. Nowadays, you can just think of something real quick and it hits, and the next thing you know, you're a star. And that's why I said people aren't appreciative because it can happen to anyone realistically.
And the realistic thing is like when I was on the road, I was a roadie. All
Yeah.
right. And for your listeners, a roadie does the grunt work. I'm the first one off the bus and the last one on. While everybody is chilling with the bitches and the champagne and the groupies, I got to make sure those 1,200 coffins, those huge coffins, are back on that bus. I saw the evolution from 1,200s to DAT tapes to Seratos, right? And individuals like myself and Tupac, who was a roadie for Digital Underground, who's one of my closest friends. Tretch was a roadie for Latifah. We really put in. We really had to grind. We really had to pay dues. No one gave anything to me. Matter of fact, my brother fired me. He did an Andre Harrell to me, and it wasn't because he was mad and said, "Silk, you know what? I'm just letting you go." He was telling me. He said, "Listen, I'm not going to have any more albums on Uptown. I got to figure this out myself. You met so many people through your course of traveling to being on tour. Now you got to go hold your own." You know what I mean? And I think right now, a lot of these artists right now are, I hear from a lot of managers, a lot of them aren't appreciative. A manager gets cut like, that's the worst job to have as a manager, you know, everybody forgets like but remember I don't remember that, you know what I'm saying? So this this age of music is really kind of like really strange, um and just what people are putting out, like it's standing on people's graves with guns that was your op and all kinds of stuff like that. I'm just like, wow.
The disrespect is definitely large. How do you feel that now that we're actually in the 50th year of hip hop? Hip
uh
hop celebrates 50
I was,
years.
I was just talking to Chuck at All Hip Hop, and
Yeah.
he's in his 25th year. of all hip hop. So 50 years of hip hop. It's almost 100 years, half a man. It's just like wow, you know. We went from leather and feathers and jeans and open shirts and cowboy boots to Kangos and gazelles. You know, it's just like wow, 50 years of hip hop. We were really something that impacted the world. When you go to when you have you ever been to Japan and state how much love they show us? Our culture and hip hop was not supposed to go anywhere. And it
Mm.
was just a voice from inner city communities that just wanted to be heard.
And the funny thing is that, I'll be 55 soon.
I
So growing up in the Bronx near Bronx
thought
River, huh?
you was gonna be 60.
Stop that.
Now, weren't you in the Don't Push Me?
Don't do that.
Line?
Don't do that. But I remember, and a younger woman said to me the other day that she wished she lived during the time that I lived during hip hop in the '80s, and she had asked me, she was like coming up, it's like, how great was it? I said the funny thing is, at the time when like hip hop was just forming in the '80s, New York City was one of the worst places to live,
Yeah,
with crime, with being dirty and everything. But hip hop kind of like, I think hip hop saved the people that were involved because it was, um, you know, even though like when you listen to the message, when you listen to certain hip hop songs, they talked about the surroundings and things of that nature. And although you would hear gunshots in the night and see people get robbed during the day, I think just listening and just being involved with hip hop just made it feel better, even though I don't think that we knew that hip hop would explode in the way that it did. Because remember, they called hip hop a fad. They thought hip hop wasn't going to last as long as disco. Yet, and that's commercially. Of course, hip hop was going on before it became a thing after Sugar Hill Records and Curtis Blow in them. But living in that time, and particularly for me, I went to school with Slick Rick, Dana Dane, MC Search. So the people that I've seen coming up with Dougie Fresh and all these other people, like hip hop. I know people that hip hop saved my life. I'm go- I'm not gonna say it in that way only because like I wasn't out in the streets or anything in that manner, but it did save my life because it gave me something that I wanted to be a part of. That I knew that once I did something, I was never leaving hip hop. I
yeah.
don't, and when I did music, I used to be a producer. I did R&B, had a singing group, but hip hop was always the backbone. It's always been, and I just appreciate. And like I said, this is the 50th year. The only thing that I don't like is that a lot of these white conglomerates are going to benefit off what our community and culture has created, and we're not going to directly benefit in the way that they're going to benefit.
but I can answer this. When we, as a community, start accepting and stop making excuses, we'll be able to come together as one. Even as an actor, you know, Leo DiCaprio gets every role that every he turn the roles that he turns down actors get. But we don't have a Black Breakfast Club or 16 Candles like Molly Ringwald, and Leo makes sure Toby works. Toby makes sure Matt works. And they stick together. We don't have that. We're always fighting against each other. And when people see division, you know what happens, right? I'm going to take over
Or
because,
the divide and go right in.
yep. So that's exactly what's happening right now. So we have a lot to blame on ourselves as well, too.
Yeah, definitely,
Yeah,
definitely. But I do see with the rising of certain companies and doing certain things that, as you stated, people use the excuse of, everything is worked out against us. But I agree, but we're so strong and we don't realize it that we've overcome so much, and we can still do more if we put our thoughts in the more positive direction, as opposed to saying this is what's stopping us and giving excuses to why things aren't a certain way, and just do it. Because if we just went and just did it, we'd have no excuses.
Well, I've been hearing the same narrative about doing it every year, and it's never been done. And that's the thing about it. I'm a person of action. I hate it every New Year. The ball drops. This is our year. Nah, man, this is your day. It's not this year is going to be a great year. Every day should be a great day.
Yep.
So people saying that they're going about we're going to do it and they're not doing it. And that's why these white conglomerates look and say, you know what? I see the separation. I'm going to give this person a bigger piece of velvet cake and this person a little piece of cake. And that's how separation starts.
Yep. It's been continuing. But I also wanted to find out from you what as far as because of streaming services and when it comes to people engaging in the arts, whether it's music, art, dance, whatever, with the I guess social media, like all the modern technology and things that we have, what do you think is going to be the next big thing just in general?
Well, I keep hearing about, I'm getting acclimated to this metaverse and these NFTs and stuff like that. I'm hearing this is I still don't get it. I'm still being educated about it. So those are some of the things. I was out at Art Basel and I went to a meta party and so many people came out for this fake universe. You know what I mean? That people are in. I felt like Doctor Strange. I was like, yo, where am I? Like so that and I'm also seeing that people are trying to create content. A lot of people are trying to create content. But these are the content creators out there. If you're listening, like make sure the content you create is quality content. You know, don't tell me your stuff is on Tubi because Tubi to me is Tubi. You know, it's Tubi. But if you're gonna have to be on Tubi, make it the best
Like,
project
yeah, exactly.
so it could outshine. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to see one scene the girl has a lace front wig on, and 5 minutes later she has a Angela Davis afro. Like to me, I don't respect stuff like that because I know what it goes into make a quality project.
Yeah,
It took five 5.5 months to do a season of Godfather of Harlem. We have to make sure everything is period appropriate, from the spirits to the cars to the parking signs, to the parking meters, to the telephone booths, to clothes, everything. So if you want to be a content creator, create some good content. Because if you don't, you're not going to get my respect because I understand what it is and I understand all the hard people that go into making this project. Whether you're a grip or you're a best boy or you're a gaffer or you're a costume designer, you're a set designer, you're a prop master, I know what it is to take to make a good project.
that's good. Well, I definitely appreciate your time because I know that you're doing things and making things happen. Is there anything or anything else you'd like to talk about or any last words or anything to that nature?
No, I just have to say, like Real Talk said, man, you've been solid. You've been a friend of mine for years. I wish you the best of luck on this new platform
Thank
because
you.
your friends are better than theirs. So always remember that.
Definitely. Well, like I said, I look forward to. Well, like I said, I'm definitely going to catch up on a new season since this revelation came about just right now.
And text me, know what you think, man.
Yeah, definitely. And what I'm going to do is, like I said, if and you know me, in any way that I can help, definitely reach out. And if I can make things happen, I'm gonna make things happen. And I know that with this platform, I'm re-entering that I have aspirations as well to do more. And if nothing else,
Talked about that, brother. You should have your own talk show by now, man. We
yeah, I know. I'm gonna tell you what I tell everybody else. Um, I do believe in timing, and I do believe that when it's meant to be, it'll happen. Because I don't want to be the person that does something because everyone feels that I should and it doesn't work and not able to bounce back. But the person that is going to do what's necessary, and not to say that everything will come, but it'll be more natural, more authentic. Because even with and the thing is, we were doing me and my well the guy I started the industry course on with, Tim, he passed away the year before last. When we did podcasts when people were like, "Pod, what?" People didn't know what podcasts were. It didn't work at that time. I did it again 6 years ago, but when I did it, I didn't feel like it. I didn't feel it. I just did it because people were starting to do it. This time I'm like, I want to do it. This time I have the energy behind it. So, and I've always told people that I think that for me, what works for me is when I do something and it works. Industry cosign was the same way. I just did it, and 2 months it'll be 19 years old. So it's almost 20 years I've been doing industry cosign, and I think I've been doing it right because it led me to working at Black Enterprise, the Source, Impact, all these other things. So I know that whatever is in front of me, I'm heading there now, and I'm glad that the knowledge and education I've gathered throughout these years is going to help me more so now than it may have helped me several years before. So I don't feel like I've lost out on anything because people are like, oh, you could have. I'm like, I can't look at it like that because I think that my future is definitely still bright, and I'm definitely going to do what's necessary in order to fit in the roles that I'm supposed to fit in. But I
No,
do appreciate you
I
telling me that.
agree with you 100%. But also remember, time doesn't wait for anyone, brother.
That's true too. You're right.
You go to sleep tonight. I go to sleep tonight. There's no guarantee I'm gonna wake up and say good morning to you tomorrow. And
You're
that's the way
right.
that's the way that I look at life. If you don't, everything is. It's almost like when I used to talk to Pop. Pop was, he used to be in the studio so much because he was like, I don't know how much time I got left, man. And I had a revelation. I was just driving down the Hudson, the Hudson Highway the other day, and I said, damn, I might have 20 to 30 years left, if that, on this planet. You better take advantage of every day you have. You feel what I'm saying? So I agree with you, but you don't want to be 65 years old saying, "Yeah, I'm ready to do it now."
Or
And
I don't want to be 65 saying, damn, I wish I had done this.
exactly, man.
I definitely appreciate that. And like I said, we'll both be doing our things because if we just need to and both be successful. And like I said, you'd already know that anytime you need me, let me know. I'm there, and vice versa. And once again, I appreciate your time.
Thank you,
Good luck with getting a renewal for the next 4 seasons
thank
and
you, bro.
several other projects that you're working on. And I look forward to seeing you grow even more.
I
Thanks
appreciate.
again.
Thank you, brother.
This is Big Said, the industry cosign. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, peace. My friends are better than yours.
That's damn right.